So hello and welcome to the first session inaugural of the Ukrainian Smart Cities ecosystem in partnership with the World Smart Cities Forum. And I'm here with the fantastic lack of people that is going to bring a reflection around the topics of the future of Ukraine, especially when it comes to smart cities and the frame that has been working between the government and the different institutes, universities, and creating policies for this. So I'm actually proud to be here. My name is Dinis Guarda. I'm the founder of citiesabc.com, a platform focused precisely on cities and creating policies for these areas. And we are here trying to talk and create an international reflection around how we can actually improve the innovation around cities, the framework around cities, and especially create new solutions for Ukraine. That is a fast-growing economy with a lot of possibilities and a huge population focus, especially in a lot of young population, but as well with a strong capacity for digital and innovation. So cities and smart cities are one of the most important things that it comes to look at our society, how to create better balance and better solutions. And today we're going to be precisely reflecting that with a list of personalities that are some of the best in their fields worldwide. So I will just highlight some of the personalities. So with me, we have the host of the event, Jaewon Chun, that is the founder of the World Smart Cities Forum. And we have joining us actually from New York. Then we have Dimitrios Psarrakis, that is part of the EU Parliament and as well the founder of the Brussels Council, and as well researcher in policies in the areas of digital innovation, fintech, blockchain, and a lot of areas considering technology and society. Then we have Professor Kieran Jude Fernandes, that is joining us from UK and is the Vice Dean of University of Durham, and as well is part of UNESCO UK, and has been working in a lot of strategies around the policy making and how to make cities a better place, and especially recently wrote a paper that was about Cities ABC Index DNA, precisely how to make society and cities more sustainable and more innovation driven. Then we have from Brazil, Antonio joining us, that is been reflecting on these areas as well of cities innovation, and Antonio Limongi. Then we have Professor Yu Xiang, that is a specialist in research around innovation and technology, especially the areas of supply chain, but as well is the Association Dean International for the University of Surrey and director of the Center of Commercialization, and is as well part of a center in Oxford and the center in Cambridge University, and he's been working a lot in the areas of international trade, international innovation, and he recently did a very interesting paper around consumption about areas of cryptocurrencies and innovation around that area. Then from the Ukrainian side, and I'm quite excited to welcome, I'm going to apologize for my spelling, Lyubomir Polipenko, that is the director of the Institute of Lviv Polytech National University, and as well that is one of the leading polytech universities in Ukraine. And we have Dr. Natalia Shukray, that is vice rector of LPNU, that is as the Lviv Polytechnic National University. Apologies as well for my spelling. And last but not least, Oleksiy Drukov, that is the Tech Startup School Vice Director. So I welcome to this panel. I'm actually looking forward to share ideas and to learn more how Ukraine is leading innovation in these areas. And I will pass the word to Jaewon Chun, that has been working on this frame and presenting this contextualization, how Ukraine is leading and creating a new frame and a new strategy around smart cities and around innovation on these areas.
Thank you very much, Denise, for your kind and very warm introduction to all of us. I think that people just go. I would like to ask the people, the guests from Ukrainian to introduce themselves. maybe 1 minute each. I think that maybe while people like using speaking, probably I just like to ask you to be careful with your mute function, the bottom of the screen, so that we can actually maybe smoothly go ahead with it. So the Lviv Polytechnic National University, can you introduce yourself a bit? I think, okay, so yeah, you are muted here, so yeah.
Colleagues, dear colleagues,
you are muted again. Can you turn on?
Yes, sorry. Dear colleagues, dear our partners, our guests, on behalf of our rector, let me congratulate us and you for this big event in opening online session. This session also in the frame of the first international forum in public administration and innovation. And you see the theme of is new for us, for our university. We are the university that deal with IT technology, computer science, with architecture, civil engineering, and design. So there are a few very qualified teams, scientific and educational teams that can their knowledge, disseminate the experience in the sphere of creating a smart city, and at the same time public administration and innovation in this such very important and very close sphere. So at the first glance, combination of these terms is not unusual, but over the last 2 decades in developed country, there are some fundamental changes in the working of government, local government, in developing the city, which has resulted on major innovation in the organizational structures and system of government, delivering greater efficiency and more responsible and flexible public services, and more communicate cities. And the main aim of our is to join all the people or scientists, professors, around the idea of developing smart city, and Lviv will be a good place to improve your creative ideas and your new initiatives in practice. So our university is one of the oldest technical high institution organization, not only in Ukraine, but also in East, were founded more than 200 years ago. And all this time, we are not only a big educational hub, but also a big scientific university. And we are glad to join your effort in the sphere of developing a smart city. So, as you know, Lviv is in the UNESCO list, and at our university, as it's a very ancient, we have an ancient building, so with the help of our students and our professors from the Department of Design, we renew our main building as and try to add this building to the list of UNESCO. So we invite all you to visit our very beautiful university, but at the same time with the great history and with the modern ideas and a lot of innovative ideas. And we wish all you the fruitful cooperation in developing theory and practice of smart cities. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. So let's go ahead. All right. So can anyone mute, please? Okay. So hope you can see this one. Can you see this file? Not yet. My apologies. Something wrong with this one. Before we just go, last month, World Smart Cities Forum and I signed a mandate agreement with the Ministry for Communities and Territories Development in Ukraine to build smart cities in this country. I think today is very important because this is actually the starting point of the agreement between the Ukrainian Ministry and World Smart Cities Forum. Over the decade, I have played a great deal of roles in preparing for blueprints for the future of many different countries around the world with the development of smart cities based on innovative ecosystems. So I'd like to share with you about what I'm thinking about Ukrainian smart city for the next 5 years. Because this year I'm actually working on preparing for the basic concept design as well as implementation master plan by the end of this year. So it will be officially released on behalf of the Ukrainian government. Also, we'll just make that spread out internationally so that we can actually build up the PPP model for the best fit of the smart city initiatives. So let me just share my presentation deck with you. Just hang on. All right, so can you see this? If you can see, please tell me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So
yes, we can.
All right, so this is a great smart city basic concept design I'm working on at the moment. So this is what we are. So World Smart Cities Forum is London-based nonprofit organization, Archive Labs, New York-based one to raise the funds in terms of smart city initiatives around the world. And also we are, the Archive Labs is responsible for establishing the SPC, which is Special Purpose Corporation, to lead the whole projects and each one of the projects around the world. Xentry is the quite famous one in the UK and also Asia. This is a tech accelerator based in New York and London. So having more than 300 startups by now, and some of them, they become unicorns based on the smart city initiatives in London and also the internationally. So the basic concept and the basic functions of what Archive Labs and World Smart City do is we designing the master plan for the city. At the same time, we nurturing the startups so that we can take advantage of their insights and innovative ideas to the entire city plans. Then throughout the programs called Smart City Tech Centers. And about 30% of the whole budget will go directly to those startups or SMEs. I'll explain how we can make that happen through this phenomenon, the framework. Technology transfer and commercialization is also a very important function, what we do. And Smart City-based global scale-up fund is also the mandatory functions throughout the Smart City SPC, special purpose corporations. Currently, we have lots of different projects at a time, and ongoing projects including the US, UK, Ukraine, Vietnam, South Korea, and we are also targeting on other projects in many different regions. And so the reason why we're just doing multi-continents and multinational way is trying to put these projects together and to produce much better the market potential opportunities. And the basic concept and philosophy is very simple. We weigh the meaning of people, like the activities by the people and residents, most important thing. So people centricity kind of concept, or maybe people centric, or just putting people in the center of the city projects is the key. And also we can think about how we just collect the data and how the people can take advantage of data collected. Then we can produce the better economy for them. Environmental friendly ecosystem is also very important. Maybe a lot of people understand ESG kind of concept these days. So the environment and governance and social purpose functions is also considered one of the important functions in the city as well. Technologies and innovation is another bundle of the supporting pillar to make the city much more sustainable and resilient. And connecting the global cities can also bridging the cities to, bring out the bigger size and scale up size of the markets to the industries. So Vision is a small city innovation hub of Eastern Europe. As you probably see in entire Europe and Russia and probably Asia together, I think the Ukrainian is located at one of the best spots. It's also very rich lands, and also in terms of geographic perspective, it's located between Asia and Russian territories, and also another pathway to the Mid Europe or Eastern Europe and Western Europe. So I think that this smart city innovation hub of kind of design can be another step forwarding ladder for the future of the Ukrainian economy, I believe. And core value is the pursuit of happiness, sustainable sharing economy, and job creation, clean, eco-friendly city, innovation, and future technology. Those four pillars basically I'm thinking about right now. But this whole vision and core value will be shared with the leadership of Ukraine and also the leadership of the city. Then we can publish it when everything is really agreed on. That will be actually by the end of this year. And the smart cities themes is maybe we can bring something more outside, but I think that it's very important to design what kind of things should be prioritized. I think that smart, building and also the water and kind of, the resources, mobility and healthcare and safety, security and waste management are the major one to be probably prioritized in some of the cities in Ukraine. But we are starting Lviv city as a first project in Ukraine. So maybe the Ukraine Lviv area could be another test bed as a pilot test bed for Ukrainian smart city as well. We can add up many different functions of the technologies or some, the ideas based on IoT, big data, and AI, blockchain, cloud. Those are the very important function to support the future industries and innovation. And I'm going to jump this part. And main themes, as I said, so, tentatively, we are thinking about smart mobility, smart water, digital smart cities, and safety living. Energy efficiencies are the major functions at the moment. But it will be changed a little bit, or maybe it can be added to something more, or maybe we can just divide these out in the various purposes. You can also think about the potential smart city infrastructure. I believe that about 70–80% of the function of the smart city is not visible. It's totally invisible. Only 20–30% will be visible. But sometimes you need something visible to persuade the residents, or maybe people, any stakeholders of the city can be really satisfied. So I think that mobility, safety, energy, smart finance, these areas, probably maybe we can just add up something more, bringing some infrastructures for it. And the SPC, as I mentioned, investment flow, is based on PPP model. So we, maybe the government, municipalities, the central government, they actually have less risk, but at the same time, they can provide the private sectors more opportunities, bring their resources, including the financial resources and investment, and the people like startups. So just like Estonia, Lviv can be another Estonian ecosystem to invite more high potential startups, SMEs, and R&D centers to work on the practical smart city projects on behalf of Ukraine. And smart city tech sandbox model is very unique that we actually have established by now. So some of the Cognicity Challenge project back in 2015, about 1,000 companies applied for this program. Then 100 companies, which is 10% out of them, they are actually going through the core programs for about 1–2 years. And eventually 36 companies picked up by the organizer, and also they're supported by the city government. And then most of them, they are actually advancing into the unicorn or the semi-unicorn level. They can explore more opportunities overseas market these days. So based on this tech sandbox, another purpose of the smart city is we are trying to rolling the sustainable economic power so that the Ukrainian cities can grow by itself. And that is the kind of the very strong purposes of the smart city tech sandbox in Ukraine. And throughout this smart city tech sandbox, about 30% of the contestants will be picked. The only thing that we have to concern about this model is the existing tender systems. So lots of the cities and countries, they have their own tender systems, but this one can be a little bit different. So that we are working together with the lawmakers of the country or local governments to establish some specific special law to protect the innovators or tech startups so that they can do something meaningful. So we are actually targeting about 200 startups yearly basis participating in Tech Sandbox. Then this project is about 5 to 6 years. So by the end of 2027 or 2026, we are targeting about 1,000 companies coming in. Then they can practice themselves. About 30% out of them, they can win the projects as a tender. The investment is also the mandatory. Then some of the winners, even though some of non-winners, they actually have an opportunity to receive some specific fund or maybe scale-up fund so that they can grow based on smart city projects. And we are operating this tech sandbox throughout our existing platform. So we are actually anchoring in London and New York City at the moment. We can actually stretch out some of the smart city projects, including Lviv or other cities in Ukraine. We are also currently doing that in many different countries in Asia and Europe right now. That startups or SMEs, R&Ds, academia, they can actually collaborate. They can working together. So that is very meaningful collaborations and to produce the synergy effect. And we are going through the Open Tech Day run by Accenture. We're just doing that by weekly basis. Another one is coming up next week. This time we're working together with the Hong Kong government. Then we are looking for some of the companies in our radar that can be exposed themselves and throughout network. And milestone, I'm going to jump in because this is a little bit different now. And so we're actually working on the kind of schedule for the next 12 months and also the kind of 5-year, 6-year plan. But everything is actually done then based on the negotiation and discussions with the Ministry of Ukraine, then we can actually publish it publicly. And I'm going to just go very, very quick here. So this is actually a basic concept. So first of all, we are building innovative smart tech city based on smart city tech sandbox and open factory kind of concept. The secondly, a smart digital city. So digital transformation should be embedded in the city, and a lot of people, like stakeholders, can utilize this kind of concept. Then we can achieve the digital transformation of Ukraine very, very quickly. And people-oriented smart city design, because I believe that design is very important. I visited Ukraine so many times. I was really surprised that the whole urban design is kind of a mixture of Ukrainian the culture itself, and also combined with the French architect. So, but smart city is actually for the next generation and another next generation. So that will be kind of long-term process that we gather all the ideas together from the stakeholders of cities or even the expert group outside of the city. Then we, eventually Lviv can be the next level of the design city or urban design hub in Europe, I believe. And R&D is very important because commercializations cannot be happening without R&Ds. That's why the role of the academia is very important. So we are actually collaborating with many different universities around the world. Also, the Lviv Polytechnic National University is part of our strategic partners. And so we also invited some of the academia or R&D centers from Europe and the US and Asia so that they can actually spend more time or resources to build up one of the pilot projects in Ukraine. And regulation-free zone, because I think that a lot of countries, including Ukraine, they have their own regulation systems. But the true smart city and the innovation and even unicorns are actually just popping up based on the the environmental friendly ecosystem as well as startup friendly ecosystem. So deregulation kind of approachness is the prerequisite for us to build up the smart city projects in Ukraine. Open big data, a lot of people just mentioning about the kind of concerns and how the city or maybe individual can collect all the data, how to fight against the regulations and everything. But this is actually some ongoing controversies these days. But we believe that we will just make things happening, like and how we can utilizing data, then how the people like residents can be benefited from the sharing their own data. So I think that this data city initiatives will be a little bit different from maybe data city in Paris, France, but it will be the Ukrainian own characteristic data market driven kind of concept will be built sooner or later. Civic experience innovation technologies, because people can experience some of the functions, solutions, technology services. Then we will apply this kind of concept and the services into many different aspects. So we are talking about transportation, mobility, security, energy, and also the life and culture. In many ways, we can, input this kind of solution services so that people can experience and be really satisfied with it. I'm gonna jump it here. So also, as I said earlier, connecting the city is another important aspect, because one small city market is not, workable. So, for example, the cities in the US, cities in, for example, in Vietnam, collaborating with the city in Lviv can, draw lots of attention from the investments and also industries and even the government. So I think that one of the multilateral way of the smart city collaboration, beginning from Lviv or maybe Kiev, I think that this will be ringing a bell for any leaderships around the world for this. Thank you very much. Then if you have any questions, we can talk about it at the panel discussions. Okay, now.
Any questions? Or we pass? I think we have a long panel, so probably I will pass to the next speaker. And I want to just welcome Linda Goetze, that is joining us as well from the S. That she came a bit late, but just for the people listening to us all over the world. So she's responsible for DFM Data Corp, and she's been working on the Global Blockchain Chamber of Commerce previously, and she has a huge digital transformation and technology background. So I'll pass the word probably, I think, as the next follow-up. I don't know, Peter, if there's any wrap-up. Otherwise, we'll pass to the next speaker. So I'll go to Dimitrios Psarrakis. So I think you're next speaker, and you have a small presentation on some of these areas. So it would be good for you to highlight some of your profile, because you've been working in multiple different areas. But I think some of your highlights has been working in policy making from the European Parliament, where you work in a lot of financial and technology regulation for Europe, and both for the European Parliament, but as well working and researching best policies. And I think this is particularly important for the context of Ukraine, that has a very thriving and powerful digital ecosystem. And I think especially in the context of cities, there's a lot of opportunities, like Peter mentioned, that can actually be used here. So I'll pass the word to you, Dimitrios, and you are as well an academic with a lot of research and doing presently an MBA with the University of Chicago Wood. So I'll pass the word to you.
Thank you very much, Dinis. Let me start with a reflection on the presentation of Peter, because whenever I see the work that the World Smart Cities Forum is doing, I'm constantly in a field of inspirations. I have never, unfortunately, so far, never been in Ukraine, but I have visited many cities in Europe because of my profession. And whenever I see this presentation, I see 1 million things we can do in the Europe, taking this presentation and building smart cities ecosystems. I have again to congratulate Peter for his wonderful job he's doing, thankfully also in the European Union. And let me join you in this enthusiastic day, because what I can see is an extrovert Ukraine here. Extrovert Ukraine. This is fantastic, especially in difficult times like the ones we are facing right now. We have our eyes on what's going on in this area, and we are very, very close to the situation. It's also evidenced, the support of the European Union is evidenced because already the European Commission is in Ukraine building parts of the digital transformation strategy of Ukraine. And you can always count on our support and on our strategic assistance in developing your ecosystems over there. I'm going to be practical following the presentation of Peter, because what I understand is the strategic framework we just saw should be within a frame that is going to be useful for Ukraine in the long run. What I mean is that we should create an institutional framework of all these wonderful initiatives. In the beginning of April, I was in Dubai, and I was really surprised when I realized that many of the local ecosystems and local companies in Dubai work with Ukraine developers and Ukraine engineers. This is a clear indicator that Ukraine, no matter where it stands right now, is already everywhere. And we need to leverage on this experience and in this capacity already developed over there, in creating an institutional framework that will allow a strategic technology transfer environment to take place. And why I'm talking about a technology transfer strategy? Because having a strategy forces you to be disciplined and to be transparent and persistent in what you are doing. I see the presentation of Peter, and I see all these policy initiatives we have right now in the European Union. European Union is usually considered as the global regulator. Americans make the innovation, Europeans come and regulate it. Well, this is something that is going to change. European Union aspires to create a huge innovation area. And Ukraine should be part of this innovation area. And for doing so, we need to have a growth approach and a risk management approach. For example, the Lviv Polytechnic University develops an ecosystem. Developing an ecosystem, you need to have a regulatory framework in place, which is going to give you institutional certainty and regulatory certainty, because you guys who are engineers can't tell us what the technology can do, but the regulatory framework is going to tell you what the technology cannot do. And being part of the European Union and the innovation area of the European Union, you have to have answers and disciplined answers on what technology cannot do, and be compliant with the European Union standards and market structure designs. The second thing is about ecosystems management. European Union recently launched the Digital Innovation Hubs strategy, and I see 1 million different options of having Ukraine engaged into this network of European digital innovation hubs in order to develop synergies on 4 layers. The layer of the university and research institutions, the layer of investors, the layer of small and medium enterprises, and the layer of networking capacity. Being part of this day one is going to be of great importance for the immersion of the Ukraine innovation ecosystems into the European frameworks. We also need a risk approach. Developing innovation hubs like smart cities hubs, we need to have a clear understanding of the operational risk, of the technological risk, of the reputational risks, of the financial risks. Getting into the framework of a major technology power that can assist making steps toward this direction is going to be of paramount importance for faster growth and scalability. What I suggest is a strategy of 5 steps. Step number 1, the Polytechnic University of Lviv and the innovation ecosystem it creates should develop political entrepreneurship skills. You need to go to Kiev and demand an institutional framework that will tell you what you cannot and what you can do, and demand from the central government to incorporate European Union regulations in the field of artificial intelligence, digital analytics, digital single market, blockchain and DLTs, quantum computing, because all these frameworks should be as piece of a puzzle that fits perfectly with the European market right now, day one. This will also be of paramount importance for your engineers you already export in third countries, like, for example, in Middle East, as I mentioned before. It's very important your engineers to know exactly what they can do and what they cannot do in developing solutions applications. The other very important aspect is the immersion of the Ukrainian ecosystems to regulatory technology infrastructures and supervisory technology infrastructures. I have immediately in my mind all the fintech applications you develop in Ukraine right now. It's of paramount importance to create institutional links with the European supervisory authorities and have a list of, for example, virtual asset service providers, and link these registries with the European Union in order to have a clear understanding what you are doing, where you are doing, and intervene and helping your authorities in every dimension. The third very important and strategic aspect is to generate a passporting policy. You have a wonderful ecosystem over there. You have startups. They develop products. They develop services. Where are these technological innovations go? You need to have a compliance standard certification that allows you to tell to everybody, both in the European Union and elsewhere, including the United States, that, look, guys, we have developed products and services that respect the privacy of the people, that they provide customer protection, investor protection. They can they respect the social dimensions of adoption of the technologies of the users. Passporting is #1 priority. Another very important priority number 4, is immerse the ecosystems and the government of Ukraine to the dialogue and the procedures we have right now in developing standards. Having standards day one compatible between Ukraine and Europe is of paramount importance in having a licensing and a stamp that proves that you are not an elephant. This solves a huge reputational risk that ecosystems out of the United States or out of Japan or European Union face. And the last thing, join to every registration list we have in the European Union. It's very important to communicate to everybody from Madrid and Lisboa to Amsterdam to Tallinn that you are part of their ecosystem, that they can reach you at any point. They can invite you, use your use cases and your experience in developing their solutions. So, 5-step strategy: adoption of regulation, immersion to the RegTech and SupTech infrastructure, passporting, standards, registration. And from our side, the European Union side, you will have all the assistance you need from the European Commission and the European Parliament in accelerating the process. From the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund, you are going to have financial support, and from wonderful institutions like the World Smart Cities Forum, you are going to have the technical assistance you need in order to scale up as fast as possible. And I hope I was helpful. I give you the floor back, and we can be more specific in the conversation that will follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dimitrios.
Thank you so much, Dimitrios.
If everyone can put on mute, please. So I appreciate, and I think this is very important thing, especially I know that Ukraine as a huge, well, first of all, is based in Europe and the bridge between Europe and different parts of the bridge, but it has a huge relationship with Europe, and of course as a potential commercial partner, but as well with a lot of parts of the bridge between policy making and business. And I know particularly that Ukraine has been working in creating a lot of technology solutions for international investors, for entrepreneurs of technology to be able to do. And like Dimitrios mentioned in the beginning of his presentation, at the moment Ukraine is probably one of the top countries in terms of when it comes to technology and relationship in terms of digital transformation solutions that are being used by a lot of global companies and corporations. So I'll pass the word right now and continue on this frame. I pass the word to Professor Kieran Fernandes, that has been working precisely in the areas of policy making, but as well on cities and legislation, but as well solutions that can be built between the relationship with universities, companies, and as well lawmakers, and as well regions, strategical regions. And one of the work as well that has been bridging as with UNESCO, that brings him as well in terms of a lot of different hats that he has. So I think it's particularly interesting, especially as this first case study of smart cities in Lviv is precisely a city with a strong polytechnic university that is one of the leading technology academic organizations in Ukraine. And I think that is very important because the success of most of the smart cities initiatives is when we have all different areas of society working together, especially the academics, the lawmakers that was mentioned by Dimitrios, and all the relationships between industry and all the areas that Peter mentioned, from international networks to local networks, and specifically the different areas. And of course, creating solutions between innovation and data for the city in particular, where the smart city ecosystem has been built. And at the end of the day, I always like to say that more than smart cities, we need smarter cities. So using some of the trends around smart cities to make cities more sustainable and more impactful for the people living there, and to create ecosystems that create value from a business perspective, from a society perspective, and other areas. So I pass the word to Professor Kieran Fernandes. And if you could introduce yourself, Professor, as well, a bit of context about your background before we start.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm Kieran Fernandes. I'm the Chair of Operations Management and Associate Dean for Internationalization at Durham University. In addition to this, I have several other administrative roles, and also I sit on a number of board of directors in companies, and I was very closely associated with UNESCO until last year, where I was the Vice Chair for the Secretariat and the UNESCO National Commission in the UK. There's been an exciting conversation going on, and I look forward to the debate later on. But what struck out is, I think Dinis used the term and asked the question, I think smarter cities, and I like the word, because we've been talking about smarter cities. But also when Peter started to talk about one of the key things that came out was around empathy with people. What does this mean? What does empathy with people mean when we're thinking about smart cities with a focus around ESG? Obviously, that's environmental, social, and governance issues when we think about smart cities. And the 5-step strategy, particularly around ecosystem management, which was discussed literally from a European Union perspective, again, feeds quite nicely into this conversation from Dimitrios. So I want to talk briefly on a thing we've been working on called the Smart City Index DNA. And just to give context from where I am a professor in Durham University, and you can see one of the pictures of Durham University, which also has a natural link because earlier one of our colleagues said that the university and the city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So is our university. So the building you see behind is a UNESCO Heritage Site. And it's a well-known university. We've been in Durham since 1286. And it is one of the smaller universities specifically focused around social sciences. When I talk about the idea of a smart city, what is a smart city? Is smart city about what we see in the picture? Is smart city meaning something we see in the picture? Is this a smart city? Or can this be a smart city? Or is smart city about a rural community? In fact, all of these can be smart cities. And I want to specifically focus on the idea which is at the left of the screen. And question really I want to address is, can smart cities be created with ESG at the heart of it? And this is the slide which Peter was talking about.
I think, Professor Kieran, you're not sharing. Could you share first? Sorry.
I'm sharing.
I'm not seeing. Can you? It might be that there's a delay on my side. Everyone is seeing, or it's just me?
We can't see.
Cannot see? No. Okay,
no.
Share.
You have to, on the bottom below, there's a share button plus. So
well, I did that. I did that.
Can you just do it again?
Okay.
Yeah, to try again.
Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Well, it's telling me it's sharing. So
now, yes. Now it is.
Okay.
Problem. Serafima or An, can you?
No, it is now. Now it is.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me just briefly start again. And so I want to talk about this work we've been doing with Cities ABC called the Index DNA. And the question really is, what do we mean by smart city? Is smart city what you see on the top left-hand side of your screen? Is smart city what you see on the right-hand side of the screen? A smart modern city? Is smart city what you see on your screen now? Or can it be a smart city? Or is smart city something that looks around an urban community or a rural community? And I want to specifically answer the question of, can smart cities be created with ESG at the heart of it? Now, Peter's slide, if you remember, had three things that he was talking about. Empathy with people, and I think this is the most important and difficult question. Obviously, a lot of conversation around technology and how do we exist with nature. So I want to specifically focus on the empathy part in my conversation. So what is a city? Well, a city, we define in our index, is a place that has multiple actors. Actors are not just people, but also different things like transportation system, travel systems, as well as housing, etc. It's a multiple actor that is central to a city, where these actors are interacting dynamically with one another, and different systems and different actors. There is direct and indirect feedback loops in a smart city system. So it's not just one, they're all interacting with one another. It's an open system. This is an image of a city called York in the UK. And what you can see, there are different clusters. There's a cultural cluster, there's a technology cluster, there is a university cluster. These are open systems where things are happening, interacting. These systems have distributed memory. There is an emergent behavior. That means it's not linear all the time. A is not always equal to B, or A plus B is not always equal to C. And it's adaptive in nature. These subsystems react to external environment, and as a result of it, they become adaptive. These are the features of a smart city. And you can think of any of those 4 diagrams, and you can see these characteristics in them. So when we define a smart city, at the heart of our concept is this notion that it's a human-centric ecosystem. I think the term used earlier was people-centric ecosystem, which is technology-driven, but the key focus is you have the physical and the cyberspace system connected to bring about social, economic, political, and environmental changes. So this is at the heart of our definition. And what we also argue is smart cities connect to other smart cities through trade corridors. And the challenge always is, how do you balance the complexity? How do you truly make this place a citizen-centric place? And we have developed a framework called quadruple focus framework, which I'll talk about. It's evidence-driven, it's academic, but very pragmatic, so it can be used as a team. I want to focus on a very simple example just to illustrate our framework. This happens to be an area where we're doing some case study work. It is a region in India near the financial capital, Mumbai. And as you can see in the picture, there is a very clear divide between what you would call as the modern part of Mumbai and perhaps not the modern part of Mumbai. So there's a very clear divide, as you can see in the picture. And I could easily focus my entire presentation on the modern side using technology. But what I want to do is I want to focus on not the modern side, because this is where the challenges of ESG lie. Now, this area which I talked about is called as Dharavi, and it is an area which is very small. It's about 2 square kilometers. So it's a very small area, but has close to 1 million people living in it. So it has one of the highest density of people clustered together in one small area. However, in this area, 43% of people are self-employed. There are 5,000 businesses in this area, 35,000 single-room factories, where the unskilled average income is about 150 Indian rupees, which is equal to $2.50 a day. Now, if you remember the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal 1.1, which is the first sustainable goal, first KPI, says that everybody should be earning $1.25 a day. So in this place, an unskilled person is earning $2.50. A skilled average income per day is $20.50. In that small space of 2 kilometers, there are 60 primary schools, 13 secondary schools, and 8 private schools. And the estimated annual economy of this 2 square kilometer is $1.6 billion US. Now, this is an entirely a circular economy here. And I will explain to you in a minute how this becomes a smart city in its own right. Now, the aim of this particular place called Dharavi is to truly be a circular economy. Now, when I use the word circular economy, what is a circular economy? Circular economy exists because there is a consumer economy. If people do not consume anything, there is no need to have a circularity. Because we consume many things, you need that loop to be closed, and therefore there needs to be an economy around that closing of the loop called circular economy. Now, if I just focus on one particular aspect of Dharavi, this space, Dharavi, is basically an economy hub for circular work. Now, Mumbai as a big city generates close to 9,400 tons of waste every day. 80% of all the solid waste and 60% of the plastic that is generated is recycled in this place called Dharavi. There are 15,000 factories recycling plastic, and close to 250,000 people are directly employed by this recycling industry. Now, when we think about a consumer economy, this is what we think about. We have a factory which produces goods, which are sold in shops, consumers come and buy from these shops, and they produce waste. This is a consumer economy. And the general notion of circular economy is you take this waste, you recycle, and it goes back into the factory. I think this is a very, very simplistic view of a circular economy. And technically, this is not really a circular economy. It is trying to bring in recycling into a consumer economy. There isn't really a huge economy around this circularity. However, the circular economy is much more complex. So what does the real circular economy look like? Now, in Dharavi, this looks like completely a different chain to the consumer economy. You have circularity, where things are being collected, sorted, crushed, cleaned, and then this is it. And this is a huge economy, as big as the consumer economy in its own right. So the consumer economy is not dependent on circular economy to function, and vice versa, circular economy is not dependent, but they coexist. I'll just give you an example. So, for example, in circular economy, you have two systems. One is the government system of collection and waste, which is the basic system. This is a simple. Everything is collected by different mechanisms of the government, for example, and recycled, and it goes back. This is an entirely different economy. So it's collected through various sources. On the left-hand side, number one is all the way from collection. Number two, people going and collecting things. Three, there's a huge agenda where around charity where things are collected, plastic in this case. Four, people from Dharavi going to restaurants and factories and collecting waste. So there is a huge mechanism of collection that comes into a place where they are sorted and segregated. And I'll show you some pictures just to show how these one shop or single small factories, it's crushed into different types of plastics. It is cleaned and washed. It is then created into packets, sold back into the factory. Now, this is an example of a circular economy that coexists with a modern economy. It's a circular economy that coexists with a consumer economy together. It's almost the question, if you look at this Aisha's hand, is the circular economy driving the consumer economy, or is it the consumer economy driving the circular economy? In the technical sense, perhaps you can change Aisha's diagram to be a bit more with the tech side of it. Consumer economy dovetailing with circular economy. And this is at the heart of our index framework. We consider this issue around human beings at the heart of our index game. We then build them layer by layer. So the second layer from our issue layer is around how we
Could you change the slide, because I think it's the same slide. I don't know if it's moving or if there's a glitch.
Okay, it has. Okay, which slide are you seeing? Sorry.
So we're seeing the same slide, the one with the 4 images of Mumbai and the green. Okay, now it is. I think we lost Professor Kieran for a while. Everyone else is listening to the problems with the internet. Normally it works pretty well, but sometimes
it happened to me because I trying to, the close the slides, and I just automatically just, got a hug.
Yeah, I noticed that this, because we're streaming in multiple ways, probably it takes a lot of the capacity of the computer. So I think in the meantime, I think we'll wait a bit if he comes. If not, we'll pass to the next speaker. But let's wait a bit, because I'm sure he will be able. So I will push, if he doesn't come in the meantime, I think just to keep the rhythm. We'll get probably Linda Goetze, if it's okay for you to make the next presentation. I think that would be, but I think, yeah, Professor Kieran just came.
Okay.
Professor Kieran, it's good now?
Okay, sorry. I don't know at what point it stopped, so I don't want take too much of the time. So I have no idea why. It's always worked in the past. So I have no idea what's.
It happens to all. I think to Peter as well. And I think the thing is that probably it consumes a lot of the streaming capacity because we're using this. I don't know, but it's technology.
It's fine. Anyway, I won't put it.
Now it's working well. Now
Okay,
it's working well.
Okay, so basically, I want to use the more
full screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't use the full screen because I think there's a problem there. So I should just keep it on this. Okay. So sorry, I move on to, okay. So when we talked about layer 2, what we mean is we have basically 4 actors that are involved in this particular issue, and that is the government, academic research, companies, and of course the society. And in this case, the example I gave you is Dharavi, the government, regional government, some of the universities like the Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay, and companies the like of Google. And I'll give one example later. Now, in the case of course, Dharavi, there are in layer 3, which is our layer 3, it starts to come into outcomes. You've got the core, you've got the 4 key pillars building around the outcome. And the outcomes are social, environmental, economic, political. Now, the issue I talked around circular economy is around social, environmental, and economic. Around which there is a whole layer, as you can see, which is our layer 4 called the technology layer. Now, if I basically try to show you how technology can fit in a system. So this is the a street on Dharavi. Now, what you can see on this street is, even though it is obviously a shanty town, you can see how technology can help. So in this case, the dots on the diagram represent Google beacons that have been attached. So this is the project with Google. Google and IIT have installed beacons around the area, and these beacons are RFID beacons, and some of them are Bluetooth beacons, which allow consumers, as they walk along these streets, as you can see in the diagram, to display what is being sold in the shop and what is the latest thing. So there is a technology network that is allowing the shopkeepers to sell their wares using tech platform to people that are just going past on a real-time basis. So technology layer is both ethical but also dovetailing in this question which we talked about. How do you make it fit around? The final layer, or the 5th layer in our model, is called the citizen outcome layer. What is the outcome we wish to see? Now, in the case of Dharavi, which is an informal economy built around the circularity of different things, the example which I gave you around plastic, what is the outcome? Well, the outcome is there are 5,000 businesses that exist in that region. There are 35,000 single factory rooms in that region that are supporting close to 250,000 jobs, where the unskilled average income is $2.50 and the skilled income is around $20 US roughly on a daily basis. So that is the outcome of this hub in some form. So our framework does a number of things. Firstly, it looks at a region from a complex system perspective. Every region is different, every zone is different, every ecosystem is different, and therefore needs to be treated differently. Secondly, the focus is around society 5.0 or around people. The key question, what does it mean to be empathizing with people in that region? It's about people. And we have 5 layers that build up with that in the center, take core actors, outcomes, technology, and finally what it is that you wish to design. This was work done by a team of people, so I cannot take credit on my own. We had colleagues from citiesabc, some of who are here today, but not just them, a much wider set of people who contributed to this report to be ready, and a large number of industry, university, and platforms that have come together to deliver this. So sorry about the technical issues, and I hope at least some of the slides were clear. I shall stop now.
Thank you so much, Professor Kieran. I think actually it was precisely probably was getting a lot of streaming capacity, but we saw the slides here, so it's great. And I think just as a small note, I think this is particularly interesting because Lviv is a city that can actually use a lot of these things in terms of the smart cities framework ecosystem that is being built there. And I think, like you mentioned, Professor Kieran, I think one of the great things about what you propose here is the bridge between different parts of society, especially when it comes to the academic world, the business world, the technology world, and the policymaking world. And I think this kind of frame of index DNA, of cities index DNA, it's something that we've been working all together. And I really, I think cities need to look at this, because if you have this frame, you're going to be looking at the best way to create an ecosystem around the city, but as well to create solutions. And I think before going to the next speaker, I think it's particularly important. So Lviv, for the people listening to us around the world, is a city in western Ukraine, around 70 kilometers from the border with Poland. And traces of its Polish and Austro-Hungarian heritage are evident in the architecture. And the city blends Central and Eastern European styles with those of Italian and Germany. So it's a very rich cultural historic city, as well, with a population close to 1 million people, in the census of 2017, around 800,000 people. And I think it's important to look, especially this rich of geography, because, for instance, when you look at smart cities and you look at the future of cities, around 600 cities are right now responsible for around 60% of the global GDP. And most of the future of cities, and especially infrastructure of smart cities, is when successful cities can actually look at all these solutions together. So I will pass the word right now to Linda Goetze, and I think Linda brings another component to this panel that I welcome. That is, so she's the co-founder and executive vice president of DFM Data Corporation, and she's as well the former president CEO of Blockchain Chamber of Commerce Global. And she's been as well an emerging tech thought leader that I think is particularly important when it comes to these initiatives, because 90% of the success of these initiatives are the capacity to make sure that the theory and the practice all work together. And especially as someone that has been working on the business side and, of course, leading the Global Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, and as well working with some leading global companies. She has a huge experience managing the challenge that we have between regions, mayors, universities, and big corporations, and at the same time reflecting these parts of technology that are very important to the success of creating a smart city framework, like what we are right now discussing here in the context of Lviv. So I'll pass the word to you, Linda. I hope you are still here. We didn't lost you. I think we lost her. I don't know. Today it seems like or is StreamYard that is having an issue. That is the software we're using, or might be some internet issue. So I think if she doesn't come in the next seconds, probably we'd move with another speaker just for keeping the rhythm here. So I probably will welcome. No, she's here. So Linda, can you hear us? I think you dropped for a minute. So I'll pass the word to you.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I missed the ending of the lovely introduction of the city that we're focused on here. And technology is our friend, and sometimes it's a real pain. So happy to be here with you all. It's early morning where I am in Florida in the United States, and we're just the focus that I have heard, the human-centric focus is something that is just resonating with me, and I love that that's being the core of what's being addressed. We can look at amazing technology, but if we don't keep our humanity, it's really a sad world that we can look forward to living in. So I'm happy that the focus is human-centric, and I'd like to bring to the table an aspect of emerging technology that goes beyond just blockchain. And I have had the privilege of leading the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, an international organization. We just did an event with Blockchain Week Paris around supply chain. And I'm currently focused with DFM Data Core on the standards in the supply chain arena. And it's definitely, standards being in place appropriately, very key to actually implementing effectively. And I noticed that there was a focus on that as well, and the need to resonate with the standards of the countries that are in your region and looking globally, truly, because we are in a global economy, I believe now, where if we get things done well at a local level, the interconnectivity globally is going to be very profitable for individual cities and even countries if it's done correctly. So the focus that I want to take is with an emerging technology that views blockchain simply as a thing. And we've heard the word ecosystem used, and the concept of the web. I'll tell a quick little story with the web. I got to meet a gentleman who had a friend at the University of Illinois when the web was just in between professors sharing research. And Charlie Northrup saw this interaction and he said, that's going to be commercialized. And although his friend laughed at him, Charlie went and wrote 10 patents that defined e-commerce as we know it today. And I got to sit at a lunch table with him shortly before the pandemic. And he was talking to the gentleman who helped broker the sale of his patent stack. And the story was around an email that had been framed on their office wall. And they asked Charlie if they'd ever told him about it. And he said, no, what are you talking about? But this email was the response that the winning broker had gotten when he asked how much higher he could bid for Charlie's 10 patents. And it was a very simple email. And it said, whatever it takes. And it was signed Bill Gates. So Charlie's hearing this for the first time. And he said, you know what? My current patent stack will dwarf that one. And I was like, wow, e-commerce, global use of the web in a commercialized manner. Yeah, how can he be serious? And what he has worked on for the past 13 years is a way to give us as human beings digital agency. And the web wasn't designed with us in mind, right? Even having state in the web was something that was added after its creation. And, we have cookies now that track our digital footprint. And we provision ourselves into other people's spaces. When we go onto a website, we lose our ownership of our digital data in many situations. And the EU has done a great job trying to bring privacy forward in relation to the web, but it isn't quite doing what needs to be done. And Charlie's patent stack actually enables digital agency in a unique way. And it starts with the ability to go from the physical world into the digital world and back again. And everything having the ability to have a multi-key that is connected to them individually, and then can connect with other entities so that we create not just like blockchain. For those of you who are familiar with that, it's a triple ledger entry, and you can timestamp things. The Bitcoin blockchain is known for its security and its ability to have an immutable record. And, we started with single ledger entry back with, cuneiform and, clay tablets, right? And then morphed into double ledger entry. And that enabled, global commerce. And blockchain in the past 12 years has really developed the triple ledger entry system. And what Charlie has developed is a quad ledger entry, where we truly have a time location connectivity that enables a universal framework of things. And the implementation into a smart city is going to revolutionize the way that work is done and who has ownership of that digital data. And it's raising awareness of what's possible, and then working with innovators that are willing to see those possibilities and act on them, and really keep the human at the center. That is what I really work towards being able to connect with. And I believe that this opportunity here in the Ukraine is one of those places that could be, we talk about Estonia and, what it did starting over a dozen years ago to create a truly digital economy. And we can transition even into a more human-centric and more efficient and more connected way of doing life and doing business with the emerging tech that currently exists. And it's my pleasure to, Peter, thank you for the invitation to be here today and to share, just a little brief introduction. Hopefully we'll have opportunities in the future to really dig into the tech and have those implementations that showcase the power and the possibility of the quad ledger technology. So looking forward to hearing what the rest of the panelists have to say, and happy to answer questions as well moving forward.
Thank you, Linda. And I think it's really, I think this experience and these relationships between technology and how we can put this in practice is the most important thing. And I think that's what makes cities going forward. And I think this is a topic, so I'll recall for people joining us from different parts in the world, but listening to us, is how can we create smart cities with ESG, carbon footprint, energy, and circular economy. And I think so, coming back to this point, I want to ask Professor Yuxian, because he has a lot of experience, especially in building ecosystems around the universities, but as well as a Chinese based in the UK for the last decades. He, as well, an interesting case, of course, China right now is one of the leading powerhouses, economy and technology in the world, but he brings as well a component that just 15, 20 years ago, it was an emerging economy. Of course, in 20 years, became the leading global economy. And I think would be interesting from this angle. Of course, Professor Yu is right now completely based in the UK and he's been leading both the University of Surrey right now, where he's one of the deans, but as well working with universities, is working presently with Oxford and Cambridge, is as well part of the Magna Carta Island ecosystem. And it would be interesting, so Professor Yu, if you could give a bit of an overview about these topics, and especially how you've been working with cities, because I know that you, especially with the centers in the university centers that have been working, you've been working with a lot of projects with universities, and you're touching a lot of these areas, especially between supply chain, how to create cities, and how to create correct and successful partnerships between the cities, the academic ecosystem, and the industry network.
Thank you very much, Dinis, and thank you for Peter to organize this very important session. So, and now I could talk to my colleagues that we have more opportunities working with Ukraine now. So for this connection, so we are actually, as my role in Surrey University, so we are very good at technology for smart cities. So I think in an earlier conversation, I mentioned, discussed with Dinis and Peter about perhaps from our university's perspective, we could set up some smart city center for Ukraine, okay, or with some science park or companies in Ukraine, so that we run a country #1 in 5G and 6G technology. So we have the largest university-based 6G and 5G centers in Europe. So basically, Cisco or Huawei or other telecommunication giants, they all fund millions of money to our center. So we have a 6G or 5G cars. So this is one of our strengths. And also to enable smart cities, I think AI is important, and blockchain. For AI, we also have the #1 ranked AI center called the Surrey Center for Computer Vision and Speech. So the founder, Professor Joseph Kittner, his citation is over 80,000, which is #1 in UK. So no other, and in all the engineering categories. So basically, everyone studying AI, more or less they have to cite Professor Joseph Kittner. But I just give you some examples of how relevant that our university may be relevant to smart city, and also for satellite. So we have the most leading satellite technology called the Starry satellite, Elon Musk. So the reason he can have Starlink is because he's a shareholder of Starry satellite. If you check all the news, you find that he transferred the technology from Starry to develop SpaceX. So it's a 100 million or more, hundreds of million worth company now, but it's owned by Surrey University, led by Sir Martin, who is very good friend with Elon Musk. Dinis also earlier mentioned about one of my research about how we as a team to give prayer to Elon Musk about press the price of Bitcoin. So our research on Nature Communication cited by 180 global press. So Surrey is the only affiliation from the UK side really look at this matter, working with Cornell University in US and Tsinghua University in China. So international collaboration is very important. So we can achieve impact, can give more impact to industry. So to come back to Dinis' question, how I integrated ecosystem. So I always look at the research side, what strengths we have, and how these strengths could be delivered to the business. So I know many professors or academics, they focus on the research itself, but I look at the middle, and we eventually want to ensure that the business also get a benefit from the research. That's why I set up the University Center for Innovation and Commercialization. The university already very good. If any university or companies in Ukraine want to explore opportunities in the UK, so one project you could work with, also again #1 in Europe. I already talked about several #1 in Europe. This project called Set Square. So it's led by Surrey University, Bristol University, Bath University, basically all the leading university in south of England. And this particular innovation ecosystem every year rank #1 in Europe and #1 globally. If you type Set Square, you find all the ranking. Okay, so and this very specialized in developing technologies, commercializes to UK or to other countries. And regarding to the economic impact, last year we just surpassed Oxford University, and we became the #2 in the UK of our science park, or Surrey Research Park, only second to Cambridge. But consider we're a small university, so consider we are only maybe 1/3 or half of the size of Cambridge. But regarding to our impact, so we're already very, very leading in the UK. So I believe these connections can benefit Ukraine's opportunities. So we can bring an ecosystem, not only a university, but the companies, the science parks, and of course with our university support. So I also work with many other IP companies like IP Run, which is the largest IP company in China, also run in the US. So basically build up the ecosystems. I'm also closely working with colleagues in this panel. So I've been working with Professor Kieran Fernandes for more than a decade now, right? So and also working with the team closely with Dinis. So very happy to share more thought later, okay? So about how we can work together on smart cities. Just for your information, I already set up 2 science parks in the UK and an innovation center. So the first one called the Tsinghua University Science Park, I set up in Newcastle when I was academic working in Newcastle. That's the best university in China. So we invest about £10 million to set up that center. Because of the successful story of that one, so the team successfully convinced Tsinghua University and Cambridge University to invest £200 million. So it's a historical event, set up a science park within Cambridge University Science Park. So a science park within science park, it's a historical event because Cambridge University never did this, allow another entity to set up a science park within its campus. But anyway, so this already happened, very influential. So that's why I think Ukraine could do some similar approach. We create something in the UK with a very solid ecosystem and the technology focus. And I also set up the largest innovation center in London, and also in Dinis also mentioned about Megalakata Island, which my company own a piece of island where the Megalakata was signed 800 years ago. So where the Great Charter was eventually signed by King John. So and the island now we own it. It's Megalakata Island, and we want to build more consensus for global. So we set up a joint foundation with Dr. Prince Sharma and another 3 trustees. So I'm one of the trustees. So Dr. Prince Sharma is the father of Alex Sharma, who is the president of COP26. So basically, we have the joint venture to promote Megalakata world peace and sustainability, because the foundation called the World Peace and Sustainability Foundation for Megalakata. So basically, we want to develop more activities with our colleagues to promote international collaboration, because we believe more collaboration will bring peace to every country. Yeah, thank you, Dinis.
Thank you, Professor Yu. And I think just for the people from Ukraine and from the Lviv Polytechnic University, which is one of the leading universities in Lviv, I think these kind of opportunities are really important, because normally the cities that thrive are the ones that have international collaborations, and especially these kind of ecosystems between business and technology and the cities can make a big difference. And of course, looking at the economy of Lviv, Lviv is the most important business center of Western Ukraine, and the city has been investing substantial amount of money to build the economy and to accounting, especially the focus on information technology and the academic area, which is precisely what you've been talking so far, how to coordinate these different things. So I know that Dimitrios will have to leave us in some time, so I appreciate his consideration. And we'll finish the international presentations right now with S.Limongi, that is joining us from São Paulo, of course, one of the biggest cities in the world, and has a lot of experience as well working between technology and different parts of organizations and cities in particular. So, Antonio, if you want to probably give a bit of an overview of your work between technology and cities, and as well the context of Brazil, which I think is important as well for Ukraine. Of course, Brazil and São Paulo is one of the biggest economies separated, but as well one of the biggest populations, and a lot of challenges as well in terms of emerging economy, but at the same time as a big city, and all the experience you have in technology over there in Brazil and working with universities.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, Peter, Dinis, and you all. Thank you. I'm gonna talk to you about smart cities and social inclusion. Okay, the main objective of a smart city must be to have equal opportunity for the citizens. This is the idea. The fact is that people are different from each other, but they should have the same opportunities to develop according to their skills and talents. The difference between them must be respected, and giving equal opportunities to different people is one of the challenges of smart cities. By doing so, the so-called social inclusion is a natural consequence. In fact, it doesn't make sense for a city to offer advanced resources only to those who live in the urban centers, such as in the richest areas of the city or even in the economic or cultural centers. Areas far from urban centers also need access to services and technologies typical of the so-called smart cities. Let's talk about 3 challenges among many faced by city managers who want their cities to be smart. First challenge about basic education. In many developing countries, such as Brazil, higher income students attend private schools with many resources, including technological resources, and low-income students go to public schools with much less resources. Also at home, most of these public schools students don't have the same technological resources. About this point, I have some notes. Not all homes have good quality internet access. Not all homes have computers. Some homes have a cell phone for the whole family. Some poor students work during the day and study at night and have learning difficulties. There isn't an adequate space for studying in poor homes because they are very small. Home students become very difficult in disorganized families. People need to be well fed so that they can concentrate on their studies, which is not always the case. You see, many students from private schools nowadays during the pandemic are moving to public schools because of their parents lost jobs. This is the first challenge, not easy to solve, easier to speak about. Okay. Second challenge about urban and rural areas. There are cities with excellent urban centers, but neglected rural areas where you have the farms, the small farms, this kind of things. Many rural areas don't have banks, don't have traditional stores, or even regular buses. Therefore, there is opportunity for fintechs, for digital currencies, which can be handled by more flexible institutions. Third challenge about mobility, urban mobility, wheelchair users and people with other disabilities. This is a very serious problem. This year, we have 40 years since the International Year of the Disabled. The International Year of Disabled were 1981, so 40 years. Many things we did, but many things we need to do. Urban mobility is a challenge in cities. Living in the outskirts is different from living close to urban centers. Streets without pavement, neglected sidewalks, bus stops that are distant or no existence, poor quality or expensive urban transportation are, among others, typical difficulties of developing countries. Conclusion. In developing countries, digital technologies are fundamental to reduce social and economic difference among families. The use of technologies, along with public policies, is essential to diminish the differences. It's also essential that families have a healthy internal structure to contribute to the acquisition of knowledge by young people, as well as their emotional formation. The fourth generation digital technologies, such as artificial intelligence tools, big data, blockchain, IoT, etc., when used in the provision of systems and applications of good public services, can be relevant in terms of equal opportunities. It's also essential that the services offered by the cities are inclusive and with the participation of the civil society. The civil society must supervise public managers and organize their own activities independently of the term of democratic governments, because the plan sometimes is a long time plan, but each management has a period, a term, and the managers, the public managers, cannot do things just thinking in his specific time of management. Thank you all very much for the opportunity. Okay, Dinis, Peter. Hello?
Dinis?
So we lost our chairman, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's just a
It's part of the game.
Yeah, you can just wait in, or we just go ahead, because I think that everybody, I really appreciate you just participating in this very important sessions of the International Forum of Ukraine. I think since we signed the mandate agreement with the Ministry of Communities and Territories Development Ukraine, it was actually 2 weeks ago. Then this is like a first step to lay some groundwork and what should be done. My target is actually the finishing up with the basic concept design of master plan of smart city, and probably maybe jumping into the implementation level. And meanwhile, just maybe looking for the SPCs and to be organized, and also raising some funds to directly being used in here in Ukraine as well. But the smart city is not only for the city. It should be workable together with multilateral ways and collaborations. So I'm seeing that actually public sectors, there must be some kind of specific role from the public sectors. The public sector means probably maybe including the municipalities and central government of Ukraine, and also international organizations. I think the maybe EU, governments like EU Council, EU Parliament, so that there might be some access to specific fund to support the future economic growth based on the smart city initiatives. And also we have a lot of, the World Smart Cities based in London. So we have a lot of the collaboration point to work together with the British government and the government agencies and academia. So Professor Yu Xiang and also Professor Kieran, they are actually all from the British universities. So I think that there might be a lot of the interesting point that build up the better, I think one of the best way of the smart city framework, and as well as the infrastructure of it. So that's something that we're actually looking forward to. So now Dinis has come back. I think that maybe Dinis, you can actually lead the whole panel discussion from now on.
Yeah, sorry, I had to restart my computer. So I think all the technology, even if you have the most advanced in the world, is not enough. So I want to just to go to the panel. I think it's important to highlight, because this is about cities, some data about the city of Lviv. So I think the city in the total volume of industrial production in 2015 amounted to 24 billion of Ukrainian currency. And has been growing quite substantial. And I want to highlight the work that the city has been highlighting, especially when it comes to IT and digital transformation, which actually in a previous debate that I was with one of the deputy members of the government of Ukraine, he highlighted that, of course, Ukraine is leading in terms of technology around the world. And at the moment, a lot of plus 500 companies are actually doing a lot of developing in Ukraine. So I would like to touch that and contextualize the city and how you are doing this. So for this, I think it's really important to highlight our guests precisely that are from the city of the city of Lviv, but as well the context, because they come from both the academia and both from the areas of the startup world. So I would like to introduce you because I think if you could give a bit of an introduction about yourselves, firstly, because I think, first of all, I will not spell your names correctly, and I think it would be good to have your input. And start with probably with the vice dean from the Polytechnic of Lviv Polytechnic University that I would like to welcome to start. And then a bit, all of you, if you could introduce yourselves, and then we kick off with some questions around what are the strengths that you see in the city, how can we work together internationally, and how you see the initiative of smart cities, because I know that the Polytechnic is one of the leading organizations, academic organizations in Ukraine in general, and it has an international footprint. And we have here at least 2 associate deans of 2 leading global universities, and we have an international panel, and I would like to put all of this together.
So, dear Dinis, thank you a lot for acquiring the Lviv Polytechnic National University, and really today it's a great honor for me to introduce you our university, our city, and maybe some of the projects about the creation of smart city in Ukraine and the beginning of this project in Lviv. So it is going about Lviv Polytechnic National University. We are one of the biggest university in Ukraine. So we have 7,000 students, and we have in different institutes. And the profile of these institutes, we have IT Institute, Architecture Institute, Engineering, we have the metrology, archaeology, and we have a lot of different specialties, but more connected with the technique and IT. But also we have a big institute in economic and management, and also in public administration. So we have more than 10,000 students that learning this economic and management and public administration discipline. We are a really old university. We have more than 200 years at the moment, and one of the main strengths of our university is innovation work, because we have a special department, Tech Startup School, that the duties of this department is to combine ideas and to create new startup teams and to create innovation. Tech Startup School works for 4 years at the moment, and we have more than startups, working startups, and we also participate in absolutely different startup competitions, like Creative Spark World Competition, and one of our teams, Pi Pillow, the pillows that help you to sleep very well, because it's IT and technique equipment. So it's won the big prize at this Creative Spark World Competition. We have a lot of different European projects also in tech school, and all this support and help to provide our incubation and acceleration programs. And one main project, Startup Breakthrough. So it usually starts in September till December, when we combine students, but at the beginning was only from Polytechnic students and scientists, but right now we have researchers and startups from different universities in Ukraine, not only in the western part, but from the other parts of our country. And this is a big competition, and we have really good results in this. And this tech startup school, this department, developed into the scientific park of Lviv Polytechnic National University. So at the moment, we have the biggest scientific park in Ukraine, and the foundators, the main object park is Lviv Polytechnic National University. SoftServe is a big IT company, Ukrainian and US IT company, also one producing company and one financial institutions. So we are trying to combine this, combine with IT and combine also with the finance. So you told a lot today about the blockchain, about the Bitcoin, about the it's very convenient, very familiar for us, and it's one of the main trends of development of our innovation, our startups at the moment. So if it's going, and also if it's going about the involvement of Lviv Polytechnic National University Scientific Park into the project of smart city development. So we are at the moment it looks like we have a really good, great connections between Lviv regional Lviv region administration, Lviv city council, and also the research institutions and educational institutions here. And we have the permission of the Cabinet of Minister of Ukraine this project to create the first smart city in Ukraine. This smart city will be in Lviv. And also we have a head of tech startup school and head of the scientific park Lviv Polytechnic National University here, Nazar Podolchak. Maybe Nazar, if you he will be in a few moments, but it's really the start of a serious project, and we have all the documents, we have the signed memorandum, and we have the goodwill of all involved parts of the city and city administration about to start and to start this project. And if it's going about the city, I can also add a few words about the city, because you told us about some strengths of the Lviv, but also Lviv near the border with European Union, so we have only 60 kilometers to border. This is 30 minutes to go by car, and 700,000 of people that live here in Lviv, and also we have a really good and strength here. We have IT companies in Lviv, and we have the association and together IT projects, and it looks it works very well because the Ukrainian IT specialists are at the good level in the world. We have a lot of outsourced companies here in Lviv at the moment, like SoftServe, PAM, and others that works for them. US for the US companies, for the European Union companies, but also we have products companies here that create new products, applications, and helps our startups when they create a new innovational IT products also. And if maybe you know, together simultaneously with our panel, we have a really big, great, fast international forum here in Lviv, and we have two ministers present here. One of Ministry of Education of Ukraine, and the second one is from the Ministry of Economy, and also we have a representative from Ministry of Finance, from Cabinet Minister of Ukraine. So, and at the moment they are speaking about how to develop the technical education in Ukraine. And I also can tell you that I hope we will have a really great project in the nearest future, nearest 2 or 3 years. We will, together with the administration of President of Ukraine, with Cabinet of Minister of Ukraine, we have the idea to create advanced technical university will be situated in Kiev, not in Lviv. For shame, but it should combine and strength all the research and educational potential of Ukraine, and to create a really new great innovations here, not only for the Ukrainian economy, but also for the world economy. So thank you a lot for this short speech, but I am very open to answer all your questions to Lviv Polytechnic University, to Lviv, and to Texas.
Thank you so much, Alexei. I think there was a slight delay, but I think we got everything. So I would like probably to get, before we go to the questions, Oleg Duma, that is joining us as well. I think just to get an overview. Hello, Oleg.
Yes, hello. Thank you
Hi
for.
There. You could introduce yourself.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. But probably, Olivier, if you could put on mute.
We are sitting with Alexei Drugo just a few meters from each other, and we have double sound. So thank you for the invitation to as a participant in this forum. And just to add what Alexei said, one of the advantages in Lviv and in Ukraine totally, that many cities, especially big cities, big regional economic leaders, are now very open for new innovations in the direction of smart city and innovations. As you know, probably in Ukraine we have a decentralization reform, which is focused on decentralization mainly of finance and responsibilities. And now these local cities that have a lot of money in the budgets now want to use and utilize them very efficiently. And they are open for new technologies. I know such cities like Dnipro, Odessa, Lviv, and Kyiv are already implementing projects dedicated to implementation of digital and IT technologies in their day-to-day activities. So I think Ukraine is a very big place for innovations. It will be for during some time, but what we need, especially for a development, for a growth, is a cooperation with top European and top world organizations that could support us and support us with advices and support us with the cooperation in this direction, because our previous historical process doesn't move us so close to the innovations for in 20th century, and now we are trying to moving faster than others to achieve the same results that is needed for developing of big technologies in Ukraine. Hello?
Dinis, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying that, Oleg, so thank you so much. And you touched a very key element for me that is the most important thing when it's to initiatives like the smart cities, and as well any initiative actually that deals with cities, that is cooperation and collaboration. And I think this, and as well, like you mentioned, is as well intelligence and sources of different international organizations working together to create very concrete results. So we have here Professor Kieran Fernandes, that is the Associate Dean of the University of Durham, and as well, he's one of the top, I think, #7 MBA in the world. He's not so well known probably as other universities, but he's quite one of the pre-league universities in the UK and worldwide. but as well is someone related to UNESCO. We had, of course, Professor Jude, that Vice Dean of the University as well of Surrey, and involved as well with the Centre of Innovation in Oxford and in Cambridge, and as well involving a lot of things. And of course, Linda, that is working in a lot of different areas, and Antonio as well, that brings a huge collaboration between the organizations around, specifically in Brazil, but as well in Latin America and internationally. So one of the questions I would like to step in probably and get us to create an engagement. So probably from you, Alexei, because you know the city as someone that is in leading the department of startup within the Polytechnic, which is normally the most thriving part of a city, is the startup ecosystem. And as well, you cannot build a smart city without looking at the university, the innovation around the city, and how you put all of this together, especially with policy making. And you mentioned as well that you have a couple of ministers from the city. So can you tell us a bit, and Oleg, you touch as well, the importance of cooperation. So from the work that you've been doing there, and probably, Peter, it would be interesting to step in as well, especially with the frame that we're working with the Prime Minister office and the government of Ukraine. What would be the things that you think are the most important when it comes to international collaboration? Especially when you talk about the academia and the city and the international organizations. You are on mute, so if you, yeah.
Thank you for the question. I think if we talk about the international cooperation and we talk about international cooperations in terms of development of startup ecosystem, I think that most important things are cooperation with global accelerators and organizations that support startups and innovations. This is number one, because brilliant ideas on the pre-seed stage in Ukraine need development and scaling, and very good skills and programs in accelerators are especially in Europe. So this cooperation is viable and will be very important for Ukraine. Also, the second point is technology transfer. We are currently implementing some projects in Lviv Polytechnic, which is wide open for all the participants from all Ukraine, dedicated to technology transfer. We believe that sharing the experience of European Union, mainly also of other countries that are leading in technology transfer, is viable and important, because for a long time technology transfer in Ukraine was not delivered in the way it should be. So this is the point number two. And point number three is the viable cooperation in IT level, because our IT industry is quite developed and has a good links with companies and organizations abroad, especially in the United States. And I think this cooperation could lead to strengthen the links between Eastern Europe, especially Ukraine, in terms of IT, and product countries outside of Ukraine and Eastern Europe, especially in South Korea, in Europe, in United States, Australia, and New Zealand. So this is 3 points that, if it will be implemented in the nearest time, it will foster the creation of innovative infrastructure in Ukraine.
Very good point. So I would like to go a bit more precise on that, because I think this is one of the things that I've been finding out, and especially if you look at the success of London as a city, or was mentioned as well by Professor Kieran, a lot of case studies in different cities, is when you put these international organizations, big corporations, of course with the support of the government, but when you create like a specific, for instance, Professor, you had to live, but we mentioned, for instance, a park center. For instance, we have a park center in Lviv where you have, for instance, hosting with the Polytechnic, with companies and startups, where, for instance, you are working already, or how is the infrastructure on that level? I think that it would be very interesting to look. And as well, of course, I will welcome Professor Kieran or even Linda, how we eventually can look at these bridges. But I would like to ask that, if you have that infrastructure, because I know that you have a fantastic skill set in terms of technology and digital transformation, especially from startups. I've been working with startups in Ukraine, and I understood as well that the government created a very cutting-edge regulatory framework to offer international companies that want to invest or they want to relate with your companies special incentives. But I would like to see, from the city perspective, what is the infrastructure, and from the Polytechnic as well, because normally most of these park centers are related with universities and are led by polytechnics or universities.
We have actually two answers, one from me and another from Alexei Drugo. So answering the question from the local level, from Lviv. In Lviv, we have, first of all, Tech Startup School of Lviv Polytechnic and City Scientific Park, which will be the centers, like, if I could say so, the centers of gravity for innovations in Lviv. Also, there is other organizations like Innovations and Entrepreneurship Centers of other universities, especially Ukrainian Catholic University also has our entrepreneurship center. And this is very important for startups and young founders who has these, as I said, gravity centers where to go when they have ideas and start their startup way from that starting points. And as you said about London, we visit London during the Creative Spark, our participation in Creative Spark. So we are amazed about the innovation environment and infrastructure that is implemented in London, because as we see, we analyze statistics and we see that London is a leading place for innovations in Europe right now. So the experience of London, but I'm actually understand that we should separate experience of the administration of this innovation infrastructure, which is followed by the city major, and from one side managing, and from other side we need to understand that there is the experience shared by the concrete organizations participate in this environment. I mean, accelerators as well universities. So this experience of universities and accelerators are very important for us. So now I'll just give the word. Okay.
Okay. Not to mix sounds, it will be better that I will speak here. So also from the point of view of the creation of new startups, new businesses, we have a really good project right now together with the city administration and together with Cabinet of Ministers. So we are preparing to create the innovative center of the Eastern Europe here, because on the one hand we have a lot of free building and offices from the Lviv Polytechnic National University. We have a really good scientific potential, and we have a very good financial support from the IT companies side here in Ukraine. On the other hand, government also wants to create a new working places, create a new businesses, and city administration, Cabinet of Ministers, Lviv Polytechnic National University. So we have the space, we have the very good educated people, we have researchers, we have a lot of students here in Lviv Polytechnic National University, very promising students, and all this together can be the start, the fundament to create this explosion of new innovational business here. And also this project of Smart City is one of the puzzles of the creation of this innovative center here in City Lviv.
So I would like to bring fantastic, first of all, and I would like to engage Professor Kieran, because Professor Kieran, first of all, is leading the University of Durham, which is north of England, and I think he has been working a lot with the region of Durham and the northern angle, which you call here in the UK. But it would be interesting to hear, Professor Kieran, in your work with the university and with the region, some case study that you would probably put. I know that you don't have a lot of time, but at least a bit more. Some of your work you've been doing, both the academia, the region, and innovation angle, because I think it's particularly interesting for Lviv, which is actually a very similar in terms of geography between Kiev and where you are in Lviv. But I think there's a great parallel, because of course you managed to create a global leading university, which has one of the top MBAs in the world, and as well as leading a lot of cutting edge research and innovation in different areas.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dinis. I think there's definitely, some similarity between where we are and Lviv. For example, we are a region where we have a very strong cluster of machine manufacturing, like Lviv. We have electronics manufacturing, again, very similar to Lviv. Obviously, companies like Electron, LAZ, Laz, the bus manufacturing company, are based in Lviv. We have very similar setup in terms of a region. We also have, coincidentally, similar companies. For example, we have a huge hub of Nestle based in our region. I know Lviv also has a similar setup there. IT is another area where there's loads of similarities. So you're right, there are similarities in terms of business clusters. I think the crucial thing to make an innovation ecosystem work is connectivity. How you connect not just the universities, industry, government and business together, but it's also how you connect your clusters to different parts of the world and different areas of the world. For example, we have a cluster. In fact, it's the second largest clusters of game manufacturing companies or game design companies in the UK. Now, just to give a sense of the game industry, the total game sales globally is in the order of 7 to 8 billion US dollars. Globally, 7 to 8 trillion dollars. In the UK is 102 billion dollars. Now, just to give a sense of this growth, 7 trillion is the GDP of UK as a country. Okay, so there are more games being sold globally than literally GDP of countries the size of UK. Now, when you are trying to cultivate or grow an industry of that sort, there are a few things you need to understand. First of all, in the market associated with games industry, for example, access to global talent is far more important than access to local universities for all sorts of obvious reasons. So the platform you develop for the game companies to survive has to make sure that the platform you're developing is connected to different parts of the world for different things they need to do. Now, in specific, if you look at open platform games, the average lifespan of a company is about 6 years. So there is no point for policymakers to panic if a company dies after 6 years, because that is the life cycle and that's the lifespan of a company in open platform game. So you need to develop policies to say, what can we squeeze out of this type of company in 6 years' time? Rather than asking a question, can we have a policy that will allow this company to survive forever? Because those companies will not survive forever because of the nature of the business model. So I think the answer to the question is, while there are similarities, I think we have successfully cultivated a large number of companies in a very small region of the UK, including some of the latest inventions coming out in pharma, which are well known globally now because of a number of vaccinations that have come from the northeast of England, which is where we are located. Is the connectivity is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and I think this is really key for the success of any kind of relationship between cities and the academic ecosystem and special centers. And one thing that I would like to add as well, and probably Linda, I think your input here is very important, is that, for instance, you've been as well, of course, being part of a global chamber of commerce that is very dynamic and works with leading global companies and technologies. So like Professor Kieran mentioned, there's clusters. For instance, the clusters of gaming, the cluster of technology, which is, for instance, Lviv is critical. But if you get these clusters and you get international, for instance, that is one area that both, I know the University of Durham is doing, is through these clusters, you create relationships with other universities. It might be, for instance, in the case of, I know that Durham, you're working with other universities. In the case of, for instance, Sarah is working even with Elon Musk and different areas, especially for when it comes to satellites. They actually, for instance, one of the things that the University of Surrey did very successful was developing a small satellite that Elon Musk bought for SpaceX. And of course, building a satellite of small scale and selling it to one of the biggest corporations in the world makes a big difference. But it creates as well an entire ecosystem because it creates that relationship. And I know that in Durham, you're doing similar things, especially in the relationship with the University of Durham and some other peers in the US. But Linda, on your case, you've been working in relationships between industry, between different companies and chambers of commerce and the universities. So in this case here, what would be the input you have, especially for Oleg and for Alexei, in terms of the relationships that you can actually further and foster here in Lviv as we build as well the smart city framework, especially the opportunities that are here that can be established.
Yeah, the global economy that I mentioned is really important, where you do have that focus to help your specific area grow, but you're not going to be able to maximize that if you're not creating that connectivity. And one of the ways we focused on that at the chamber was having verticals that we took, say, education. And not just focusing on education in one specific city or one specific country, but focusing on education globally. What's happening with the immersion of technologies? You know, we obviously we're focused on blockchain technology, but what's happening globally? And if you recognize that we really do have a better together opportunity here, and you act on that, and you act on it specifically. And, you know, we talked about the gaming industry, that entertainment vertical. You have, you know, what's happening with technology in government, what's happening in energy. I think that vertical focus, and as you have the companies in your region that are specific to a vertical, making sure that you create those opportunities for connectivity with other companies globally, with other universities that focus on that vertical. You know, find the best of internationally and infuse that, and really create a it's a culture of inclusivity, and it's not us against them or us better than them. It's what can we do collectively to have a better outcome for us, and then that also will be a better outcome for the globe, for humanity. So that's definitely a focus that we carried, and would love to make introductions to the current CEO of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, because those global connections are invaluable. And you know, definitely you'll have more innovation happen more quickly when you really open up to the global opportunity and make sure that it's a co-opetition model, right? Where you recognize that you're doing what you're doing to better your city, your country. But if we don't recognize how connected we are, we're going to collectively lose. So definitely would encourage that collaboration and connectivity, and focus on specific verticals and find the best of internationally.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the most important thing, to be honest. I think from my experience working with cities and any environment, and as well as a teacher in multiple universities, one of the things I found out was that if you don't focus on this international collaboration, but as well the clusters, you cannot build the relationships that we are talking here about on here. So thank you so much, Linda. I think it's really very good input, and of course the doors are open to both of you over there in Lviv to open with Jaewon. Peter can actually coordinate this. So last approach from you, Antonio. So you are in Brazil, and you've been working, of course, São Paulo is a massive metropolis, one of the biggest cities in the planet. And as well, you've been collaborating with the University of São Paulo. You've been as well doing your PhD, and as well with other cities. Both Brazil has been having, is one of the fast growing economies in the world, but is an emerging market as well. So I would like to touch especially some of the work you've been doing between, I think you've been touching as well, and your presentation was about social impact and sustainability, which I think is critical, because, for instance, one thing that sometimes we forget, there's 1.1 billion people with disabilities, 1.1 billion, which is a huge part of the world economy. For instance, there's one very basic stuff that I found out, and actually is one of the focus we've been trying to bring with citiesabc, is that something that there's no really app for people with disabilities worldwide. There's no really a lot of solutions on these areas. So there's a lot of potential, not only social impact that can be done, but actually business and solutions. For instance, Google and Apple are very focused in creating solutions for this. But I know as well that sometimes we miscalculate the way the cities prepare for these things and the way we create this. So Antonio, from your experience in São Paulo and working with the Disabled Association of Brazil, that is 20 million people, any input you want to do, especially the relationships that you've been working, because you've been working with both innovation, small cities. Actually, a small city in Brazil is normally the size of a big city in Europe, but you've been working with cities like São Paulo, but as well smaller cities. I think we lost Antonio, but I think it's a great input that would be interesting to hear. So if he comes, I'll come back to that. If not, so coming back to you, Peter, because we're going to start the other section. Any wrap up that you want to give? Because of course you've been leading this, and there's a lot of doors that are open for you, for both of you over there in the Polytechnic and in Lviv that you can open through the network that we have here. But Peter, you are the orchestra maestro, and I think your input here is critical because you're making the bridges. You are on mute, sorry. Peter, you are on mute. Yeah, if you can unmute. No worries.
Sorry. Okay. The thing that I actually been working on, I mean, chose the Ukraine. You know, even though I'm actually was the master planner of the smart city pilot project for the South Korean government and back in 2018, now I actually currently working on 3 different spots in 3 different countries and maybe more than 3 different cities now, including Vietnam. Geographically and strategically, Ukrainian position is very has high potential at the moment. So the collaboration perspectives, I think that will be much easier because I know we have some projects going on in the US. It's kind of a little bit tricky. And also if you're just trying to do like kind of collaborations in Asia, there might be some kind of barriers in terms of the cultural difficulties and also language barriers in there. So Ukraine is kind of the common ground in terms of the history and culture, and also I really was amazed by the human resources and the academic infrastructures in Ukraine. So I visited the Kiev Political Institute a couple of years ago. We signed the agreement with them, and now the Lviv Polytechnic National University and World Smart Cities Forum signed the agreement 2 months ago. The reason we are actually embracing the academia is very, very critical and important because we can just get some sort of resources from the innovation and also the students and also the startups. I learned something and also help the Israeli ecosystem in terms of TTO model, like a technology transfer office. The major universities, they have different cluster and ecosystem. They call it as TTO. This TTO generates more than $50 million US per year, just like only selling their patents, and also they can they just nurture the in-house startups and collaboration with other R&Ds. In conjunction with the professors and also some tech companies involved. I think that this is very meaningful in Ukraine because I believe that kind of very strong the ecosystem of the basic science in Ukraine. So this can help the Ukrainian smart cities much more productive and efficient. So I have to just make it here.
No, fantastic. So I think we are going out of time. So probably, Antonio, if you can shortly just talk a bit about the work you've been doing in Brazil between cities and between universities, and especially both the social impact, but as well the innovation work.
Okay, thank you. I'm a researcher in São Paulo University, Smart Cities Group, since 2017. And my concern is about the intelligence of the city and benefit to the people. And all of the time, this is the point, because I understand that the city will not be smart if people, all of the people, don't have equal opportunities. And in terms of technologies, we are preparing information using databases, blockchain, machine learning, in order to offer to other people, especially to the disabled and elderly, information, communication, research, in order to help the city to be smarter. I think, Dinis, that's the point, but I don't know if you would like to talk a little bit more about it, because you know what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I think we won't have time for now, but I think the relationship will be open. I think there's a lot of work that Antonio is doing, especially with multiple organizations in Brazil and as well international, that I think are particularly important to contextualize. And of course, University of São Paulo is a major university worldwide. So I think to wrap up, because I think we are on the time, there's another session coming. So I want to thank everyone. I don't know, just last words from Oleg and from Alexei. I always, sorry, I pronounced wrong your name. But if you want to just give a bit of final words, because in the end of the day, this is an initiative for your city. And in the end of the day, I think I'm all for making inclusion starts with very concrete things, especially with leadership from you guys. And I'm sure that between you, Peter, that all the relationships are open here.
Dinis, you told us a lot, and all the colleagues told us a lot about the creation of international connections and the creation of clusters connections. So today we want to tell a great thank you for this meeting and for your advices and for your experience, and we hope that we can use all this experience in the future when we will create this first smart city in Ukraine, this pilot project. So we are ready to work, and we have all the support, and we have good ideas, a lot of young, bright people. And so with your help, with your support, we are ready to do this interesting project in the nearest future. And thank you, Peter, for your initiative and for your support especially.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm joining to the thanks to organizers. I heard here very interesting ideas. And I want to add also that we are quite open for cooperation in many directions, including a startup ecosystem, cooperating on the basis to support startups in Ukraine, in technology transfer, and also, as Alexei said, in smart city direction as well.
Yeah, I would probably finish with a wrap up, but as well with a push from you guys, especially in the sense of one of the things I've been finding, that what makes more successful cities is exactly that you create relationships, long-term relationships, and I think Professor Kieran is very good on that, that are really related in terms of mutual value creation, but as well practicalities. I think we need to follow up. So I'll leave this as Peter probably to bridge this, because I think if we build the smart city framework from day one, thinking about these collaborations, I'm sure your Polytechnic Institute and the university over there, which is very important, will have 10 times more impact. But as well, you can actually get more international funding, more international business, and more sustainability as a whole. So I'll finish with that hopefully note, because sometimes we forget these things. It's a real honor to be hosting this, of course, in behalf of World Smart Cities Forum that is led by Peter, and of course, in my case, Cities ABC. We're going as well to highlight a lot of these projects, both initiatives like yours, and like Professor Kieran mentioned as well, the Cities ABC Index in been actually becoming a global initiative. We're actually going to be creating a lot of things. We would love to collaborate with you, because especially Ukraine has a huge capacity in terms of technology that we would like to certify. So I want to thank you all. So Linda, I know that you came at 5 a.m. or earlier than that over there in Florida. I wish you a great day over there. Antonio, thank you so much. You came as well at around 5 o'clock in Brazil. So we have different parts of the world. And Peter, of course, is even early because he's in New York. So I think he's probably 4 a.m. right now, something like that. And Professor and me, I think at least we are in a better time zone. So I want to thank everyone. It's been a fantastic panel. And hopefully we can start and meet face-to-face after this COVID issues and start really collaborating and creating mutual value for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, Dinis, you all.
Linda, Kieran,
Thank you.
Antonio.
Cheers.